There is a phrase every Muslim says constantly, in times of stress, in times of fear, in times of uncertainty, in times of loss. Tawakkaltu, ala Allah. I put my trust in Allah. It is said at the end of conversations. It is said before big decisions. It is said when there is nothing else to say. But here is the honest question that most of us have never truly answered. Do you actually know what it means? Not the words, the reality. What trusting Allah actually looks like when the situation is hard, when the answer has not come, when the thing you feared most has happened, and you are sitting with it, and someone tells you to just trust Allah. What does that actually mean in that moment? Because if you do not know the answer, then tawakkul is not a source of strength for you. It is just a phrase. And a phrase will not hold you when everything collapses. Today we go deep. We go to the root of what tawakkul actually is, what it looks like, what it does not look like, and why the people who truly had it were the most active and the most courageous people in Islamic history, not the most passive. Let us begin with the most famous story of tawakkul in the Quran. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, was placed in a catapult. He had broken the idols. He had humiliated the most powerful people in his city, and their verdict was fire. They built the largest fire they had ever built. They made it so large that the birds could not fly over it without falling. They loaded him into the catapult, and at that moment the angel Jibril, peace be upon him, came to him and said, "Do you have a need?" And Ibrahim, peace be upon him, said, "From you, no. From you, no." Not because he did not care whether he lived or died, but because there was only one direction his need was pointed. He turned to Allah, and in that moment, in mid-air, flying toward the largest fire in the city, he said, "Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil." Allah is sufficient for me, and He is the best disposer of affairs. And Allah commanded the fire, "Be cool and safe for Ibrahim." And it was. The fire burned everything around him, and left him sitting peacefully in the middle of it. That is tawakkul, not a feeling, not a hope, a complete redirection of the heart toward Allah alone. But now I want to show you something important about tawakkul that most people miss, because they read that story and they think, tawakkul means doing nothing and waiting for a miracle, and that is completely wrong. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was approached by a man who said, "Should I tie my camel, or should I trust in Allah?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Tie your camel, then trust in Allah. Tie your camel, then trust in Allah." Tawakkul is not the absence of action. It is action combined with complete surrender of the outcome. You do everything within your human capacity. You plan, you prepare, you work, you take every means available to you. And then, after you have done all of that, you let go of the result. You put the result in Allah's hands, and you genuinely, actually, in your chest, let it go. This is why the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, were the greatest practitioners of tawakkul in history, and also the most active people in history. They prayed Fajr, and then picked up their swords. They made dua, and then dug trenches. They asked Allah for victory, and then trained their horses. They did not sit in the masjid waiting for Jannah to appear. They moved, they planned, they sacrificed, and then they handed the outcome to Allah. And because the outcome was in Allah's hands, they were free. They were not paralyzed by fear of failure. They were not destroyed by results that did not go their way, because the result was never theirs to control in the first place. Now I want to talk about what tawakkul feels like from the inside, because this is what nobody teaches, and this is what people desperately need to hear. Tawakkul is not the feeling of certainty that everything will work out the way you want. It is not optimism. It is something much deeper and much more stable than optimism. Optimism says, "I think this will probably go well." Tawakkul says, "I do not know how this will go, and I am at peace with not knowing, because the one who decides is Allah, and He is Al-Hakim, the All-Wise, and Al-Khabir, the all-aware, and Al-Latif, the subtle, the one whose wisdom reaches into places I cannot see. This is the difference. Tawakkul does not eliminate uncertainty. It eliminates the terror of uncertainty, because the uncertain future is in the hands of a certain Lord. Scholars describe Tawakkul using the image of a child with its mother. The child does not know where the food comes from. The child does not know how the bills are paid. The child does not understand the full complexity of what the parent is managing. The child sleeps peacefully, because the child knows that the one in charge is someone who loves them completely and is fully capable. Tawakkul is that peace. Not the peace of knowing all the answers, the peace of knowing who holds all the answers. And here is the reality of Tawakkul in its deepest form. The Prophet, peace be upon him, described a group of people who will enter Jannah without any reckoning, without any punishment, 70,000, and he described them with a specific characteristic. They do not seek ruqya, they do not look for omens, they do not brand themselves with fire as a cure, and they put their trust in their Lord. They put their trust in their Lord. That is the characteristic. And what does it mean practically? The scholars say, it means they do not allow their hearts to become dependent on anything or anyone other than Allah. They use means, they seek help, they go to doctors and take medicines and make plans, but their heart is attached to Allah alone. The means are just tools, the heart belongs to Allah. This is where most of us fall short, not because we do not believe in Allah, but because our heart's reliance, that deep emotional reliance, is often placed somewhere else, on money, on a specific person, on our own intelligence, on our health, and when that thing is threatened, we collapse, because we had placed weight on something that was never designed to carry it. Now let me tell you about something the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that will permanently change how you think about Tawakkul if you let it sink in. He said, if you were to rely upon Allah with true reliance, He would provide for you, just as He provides for the birds. They go out in the morning hungry, and return in the evening full. Go out in the morning hungry. The birds do not sit in the nest, waiting for food to fall into their beaks. They fly out, they move, they search, they try, but they go out with empty stomachs, and they come back satisfied, not because of their own brilliance, not because of their own power, because of Allah. The bird does not understand how it finds food, but it trusts the process that was built into it by the one who created it. And it is never disappointed. You were created by the same Creator. You were given needs by the same one who provides. The sustenance that is written for you is as certain as the sustenance of the bird. The question is not whether it will come. The question is whether you are willing to fly out of the nest with an empty stomach and trust that it will be there when you need it. And sometimes the sustenance that comes is not what you expected. Sometimes the provision is not money. It is peace. It is the right person at the right time. It is a door that closes, and the pain of that closing teaches you something that changes the sign. Tawakkul means trusting that Allah's provision is always complete, even when it does not match your order. There is one more thing, because I know some of you are listening to this in a moment where Tawakkul feels impossible, where the situation is so heavy that surrender feels like giving up, where the pain is so real that saying Hasbunallahu feels hollow. And I want to say something directly to you. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, threw himself into prayer when things were hard. He did not trust more by feeling more. He trusted more by praying more. He turned the difficulty into a reason to draw closer, not a reason to pull back. The 2 rakat he prayed when he was worried were not performances of peace he did not feel. They were acts of submission in the middle of a storm. You do not have to feel tawakkul before you practice it. You practice it, and the feeling follows. You tie the camel. You make the dua. You take the step. You say, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. You say it not because you feel it yet, but because you are choosing to align your action with your belief. and Allah honors that. Allah responds to the one who acts on tawakkul, even before the heart has fully arrived. The fire was commanded to be cool and safe for Ibrahim before he landed in it, before the result was visible. The decree had already been made. It is the same for you. The decree that is written for you has already been written. It is already cool and safe, in a way you cannot yet see, if you are among those who trust Allah. So tie your camel, make your dua, fly out of the nest with an empty stomach, and then let Allah be what He has always been, the best disposer of all affairs. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.